now going to ask to have come up from the Teachers Association of Lee County. Fourth grade teacher, Latonya Starks.
Hello, everyone. I am absolutely honored this afternoon to introduce to you someone you already know and absolutely admire. One of the most respected labor leaders on the national stage. Randi Weingarten is a tireless and fearless advocate for our students, for public education, for education employees, and truly all working people. Name an issue that matters to us, and she will tackle it head on. The attempts by certain politicians to demonize teachers and take away our freedom to teach our students and their freedom to learn honest history. Policies and laws that limit educators' ability to serve some of our most vulnerable students. Pay for teachers and staff, the teacher and staff shortage, student debt, book banning, and censorship, and the attacks on our freedom to join in union. As president of the 1.7 million member Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten logs thousands of miles a year, taking her message wherever it needs to be heard, whether that's Pennsylvania, Puerto Rico, Connecticut, to our own state of Florida. Because education and human rights knows no borders, she even travels internationally and joins us today, having just returned from the Ukraine, where she stood up for the right of the children of the Ukraine to be safe inside of their schools, their homes, and everywhere in their country. In Broward County, just last month, she stepped up to say, we would ask the governor, instead of smearing teachers, instead of calling them names, roll up your sleeves and work with us to actually help our kids thrive. While President Weingarten speaks often about what she is against, she always lifts up exactly what we are for: our students, our schools, public education employees, justice, opportunity, and freedom for all to thrive. President Weingarten has been showing up and speaking out for decades. Prior to her election as the AFT President in 2008, she served for 11 years as the President of the United Federation of Teachers, AFT Local 2. Representing approximately 200,000 educators in New York City public school system, as well as home child care providers and other workers in health, law, and education. So everyone, I ask you, please join me in welcoming a true inspiration, American Federation of Teachers, President Randi Weingarten.
What you want?
I feel like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. It's really good to be home. And home is Florida, home is New York, home is the FEA for me. So thank you for welcoming me. And you know, Latonya, whoo! I think we need a new communications person at the AFT. just also want to say, back at you, girl. Because think about what Latonya has been doing in Lee County, getting through the devastation of Hurricane Ian. Really. And I don't know, Andrew, it does feel like every year it gets harder. So I really want to thank the officers that are up here, because it's not easy to actually lead in this moment of time. So really, thank you so, so much. And on saying that, I already heard from our sister here, who hopefully is going to be the next lieutenant governor of the state of Florida, with our help. But I want to thank all of you. And, you know, you've heard me in lots of different suits, in lots of different shoes. Today I'm wearing black, which is like my normal color shoe, not the pink that I wore last year at this time. And we've been through a lot together. But this year is not for the faint of heart. And I just want to first say, and I'd like you to stand if you're here, the folks from Lee and Charlotte and Hardy and DeSoto, because I want to shower you with some love and some virtual hugs from everyone in this room. So please stand up for a minute. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, there is no way. We have to be people of conscience. And there is no way to put heartbreak into words. When you see a hurricane of that disaster, when you see what happened with Maria in Puerto Rico, when you see what happened with Ian here, the loss of life, the loss of homes, the loss of possessions, the uncertainty, the anxiety, whether you stayed or whether you went, it is a terrible, terrible moment. And your union needs to be there for you, and we are there in every which way we can be. And when I was walking in, I heard one of the delegates talk about mental health and health issues and supports and things like that. And one of the things I was not going to mention, I was not going to laundry list what we have done or will do, but one of the things that we tried to do about a year, I look at life these days as pre-COVID, COVID, after COVID. You know, I used to look at life as, this is the day I got married, this is the day I had my bat mitzvah, my father died, no, now it's pre-COVID, COVID, and after COVID. But, you know, pre-COVID, about a year before COVID started, we've tried to do a different kind of member benefit. We've tried to do different member benefits that are about, look, there's great member benefits for pet care insurance, but you don't need the AFT to compete with that. What we needed to do is, we are trying to do benefits that meet today's need. So we have a benefit of a trauma benefit, access to mental health counseling. It is on our website. I know that FEA has gotten it out to people, but it is there for every single member of the AFT. So, as Latonya just said, I got back last night from the Ukraine and Poland, and I'm not completely prepared to talk about it without crying, because it's one of the, it is a pretty transformational experience when you're in a bomb shelter and doing your meetings with people from a bomb shelter. And we would not have gone if we knew there was going to be bombings. For 3 months, there had been no bombings in Lviv. But we went because we are people of conscience, and because of the work we have done your union, nationally and internationally, has been about standing up for freedom and democracy and justice wherever, both here and abroad. And you have heard me talk about this before, and we have done so much in terms of Ukraine already, including about 20 of our members went to Poland to help in a summer camp for Ukrainian kids this summer as we were having the convention. We went to Poland earlier in the year to actually help see what was happening in terms of refugees. But the Ukrainian unions have been asking and asking me to come. And we thought this would have been a good moment. Obviously, Putin had a different idea. It would have been a good moment. And what happened and what we decided to do, the reason we decided to still go through with our journey, because we sat on the Polish border for a couple of hours deciding, was because the Ukrainian union, the teacher union, and we are all connected through something called Education International. The Ukrainian union had, for the first time since the war, actually since COVID, because remember COVID and then the war, they had gotten their representatives all together in Lvov. Representatives from areas in the east that are being attacked every day, representatives from Kyiv. And so if they were driving to Lvov, we could drive to Lvov. And what we heard and saw, it was one of the most reprehensible and moving experiences at the same time. Thinking about holding these two things together, horror and hope, was what I came back with. Let me give you an example. The stories, what they've gone through to teach teachers because of the illegal Russian invasion of Ukraine is a gross violation of human rights and of our collective humanity. And let me tell you, I've been wearing the American flag a lot because I am really sick and tired of somebody trying to take patriotism away from me. I am a patriot. I love this country. We can criticize a country and love it at the same time. Today, I'm wearing the Ukrainian and American flag. A teacher from the Luhansk region had to teach her students in a basement. And she feared that if the Russian troops heard her speaking Ukrainian, they would kill or torture her. We have her testimony. We subtitled it in English. We cut it to about a minute, and I have it pinned on my Twitter feed if you want to see it. Our Weingarten Twitter feed. But as chilling as her story is and was, I was struck by her strength and her resolve, because she wants to go home. She wants to teach children again. And then another teacher was fleeing the war with her own children when a missile exploded near the train. Remember hearing some of these stories? Leaving them only with a backpack of personal items on their back. What I heard from them and other teachers in Poland, we've spoken to Ukrainian teachers in both April and now, is over and over how proud they are to be educators. How proud they are to be educators. How they understand that what we do, whether we're a para, a bus driver, or a teacher, a social worker, is that we are nation builders. We are the people who create the path of hope and opportunity for children, and they are proud of that and wanted me to come back to America to say they are proud of being a teacher and they are proud of you for supporting them and proud of you for being teachers. They thanked us for the computers we purchased that allowed them to continue teaching remotely. They thanked us for being there, for not abandoning them. They thanked President Biden for not abandoning them. I mean, you could see the need for that weaponry as you're standing and sitting there. So what does that connect here? Solidarity and mission connects us. The stories about hope and conscience. Because whether you're an educator in Lee County or in Lviv, Ukraine, there is an innate understanding of the importance of our work, of making a difference in the lives of children, of bringing hope, of helping them carve a path to their future. They're not going to do it on their own. They need their parents and their caretakers, and they need their educators. Educators are the epitome of hope in a world filled of hate, aspiration in a world with a lot of anger. And that's the hope and conscience, even in really tough times. Remember, I said we can hold both at the same time. That's the hope and conscience that we bring to our work. Our work, your work, creating opportunity and voice, whether it's creating safe and welcoming great public schools for all children, whether it's actually pushing to say, no, we need another day or two to open schools because we're not ready yet in Lee County or in Fort Myers. Whether it's, that's the voice, whether it's citizen clinics and voting and fights for voting rights or fights for good family supporting jobs or fights for secure retirement and health care. That is who you are. And we fight against hate, and we fight to promote hope every day. And you know, and Latonya said this, that hate shows up in a lot of different ways. These days, it shows up as banning books and propaganda about public schools and the teaching of dishonest history or silencing history or ignoring history and the erasing or smearing of gay and trans children and gay and trans teachers. And unfortunately, Ron DeSantis is promoting all of this and more. He's leading the charge to spread propaganda and smears. It's calculated. Ron DeSantis is not stupid. This is very calculated in an effort to undermine some people's freedom and all people's democracies. So you all know I'm a social studies teacher, and I'm also a student of the Holocaust. So listening to him is like listening to the autocratic president of Hungary, Viktor Orban. And before anybody in the room boos at me, think about it. In fact, the idea to erase gay teachers and gay students came from Viktor Orban. In fact, Viktor Orban spoke at CPAC this year. Orban and Putin use the issue of gender and sexuality and creating that fear all the time. That is their first response to division. So the Ukrainians are fighting, what the Ukrainians are fighting for in a war, we're fighting for an election. I wouldn't try to create a false equivalency, but every time you talk to a Ukrainian, they talk about freedom and democracy, self-determination. This election now is boiling down to freedom and democracy. And so despite everything, the lies, the attacks, everything, gas prices, OPEC, we're still in this race. People like Carla are still in this race. Charlie is still in this race. Val is still in this race. Annette is still in this race. And it boils down to who votes and then counting the votes. That's what it's going to boil down to this time. So the side that we're against, they're fighting for power. And they'll say and do anything to get it. We're in the business of making people's lives better. And we do that through bargaining and problem solving and wanting policies to be different and speaking from the values that we believe in. Yeah, we get angry and we get mad, but that's how we do it. I've watched FEA for a long time. That is how you do it. And frankly, the country is crying out for problem solvers. So I love DeSantis' commercials about how much he's done for public education. Now, I don't know, Andrew, but I remember the fight we had with him, begging him to take the federal funds that Joe Biden and the Congress gave him. By the way, spoiler alert, he took them. And they're begging for the infrastructure funds too. And Rubio and Scott never voted for the American Rescue Plan. Just FYI. But think about that's where the money came from this year. But even with that, they diverted $1.3 billion in funding to private schools, vouchers, and other privatization schemes on top of all, you can boo it, on top of all the other billions that have been diverted from public schools. So let's see. Let me ask this question. If you had $1.3 billion of walking around money in schools, what would you do with it? Give it to private schools or lower class size?
Lower class size.
Hire and retain teachers? Hire and retain school psychologists? Librarians? Focus on career tech ed? Community schools? Okay, I think we got a new resolution here. Art, sports, clubs, enrichment? And I suspect every single parent, if we were talking to parents in a huge Florida Orange Bowl, they would say the same exact thing. So, what's going to go on now? At the very same time as taxpayers in Florida are having a really, really hard time because insurance costs are way up and housing costs are way up, and how many of you are now having your insurance companies take away your insurance because of hurricanes? So at the same time as all of that is happening, Florida parents want their kids to have a decent education, so instead of having the state support, there's going to be more property taxes. How unfair is that? Taking state support away from Florida's public schools, it's a choice. It's a policy decision. It's part of a decades-long effort to destabilize and destroy public education in a state that really wants public schools. Curbing academic freedom in universities is a policy decision. Paying graduate assistants poverty wages is a choice. Censoring books is a policy decision. Restricting what teachers can teach about race, racism, religion, that's a policy decision. And why do I say it that way? Because that's what gets decided in Tallahassee, on school and in school boards all across the country and in Washington, D.C. And so the only way you are going to change policy decisions is to actually change the people who make them. You notice I have not talked about party once. It's about those decisions. So that's why Charlie and Val and Carla not only are on the ballot, but why FEA and we are supporting them, because they will make policy decisions that are good for kids and good for educators and good for community. I see Andrew looking at his watch, so I'm going to talk about one or two more things and stop, which is this. This is an election about who we are and who we will be. I often now say that we're in the business of fighting for a better life. We're in the business, I know we're a labor union and not a business union, but we're in the business of fighting for the solutions, of problem solving, fighting for the solutions to concerns that keep people up at night. Like, that's why we fought so hard to reduce insulin costs. That's why we fought so hard to reduce drug costs, and we will continue to do that. That's why we fight so hard for retirement security, for health care, for student debt to be solved. And so, October 31st, I don't know if we're going to be able to get the waiver extended, but if you think you are remotely eligible for public service loan forgiveness, please apply by October 31st. We're trying to use the lawsuit that we settled to extend it, but please apply. And what's happening, it's the game changer for people. Take one of the members from Miami Beach, Miami-Dade County, who got $250,000 in student debt forgiven. We have had thousands and thousands of people have debt forgiven. So, when people tell you who they are, believe them. Believe Rick Scott when he says that they will push to have Social Security and Medicare and other laws sunset every 5 years. Believe them when they keep on saying gun violence isn't a gun problem, it's a mental health problem, and then after a shooting, they don't vote for the mental health bill that would make it helpful in our schools to solve some of the problems. Look, they tell us who they are when they try to ban books like The Diary of Anne Frank or Ruby Bridges. Why would they ban those two books? Because what do those books do for kids? They talk about empathy across race, across religion. It's like they want to snap the empathy. They don't want kids to know about other kids who have gone through struggles. That's why they would ban those two books. And frankly, and I'm glad I walked in with a librarian, so as Latonya said, we don't just talk about what we're against, and we don't just talk about what we're for. We believe in having skin in the game. And so while they're banning books, we are giving out books. Right now, we've given out over 850,000 books, and we get to the first million, we're going to do another million, because reading does open the world. And I know there's a particular group in Florida that suggests that parents are not where parents are. But let me just give you a group called Parents Together. 3 million parents are part of this independent group, and they just did a poll. 2/3 of the public overall, and parents specifically, believe that these culture wars are being driven by politicians to advance their careers. 3/4 said politicians are using children in schools as political pawns. And what are parents' priorities in this poll that was just done? School safety, student mental health needs, and adequate school funding, the kinds of things that FEA promotes every day. So this is the last thing I'll say. You know I had to end with a get out the vote. But we're a union. You see what on these shirts, building power. We have to use our collective strength and purpose over the next 3 weeks to get out the vote. Because without it, we're not going to change policy. Without it, even a strong island like FEA, power gets eroded and eroded and eroded all the time. Even with strong will, we need allies that are going to help us in the policy arena. We need allies who understand, like that song, that respect is a lived experience, not just a great Aretha Franklin song on Spotify. We are in this race between hope and fear, between decency and cruelty, between the survival of democracy and autocracy. We are in it. And you're the key. Florida elections have always been close. And this election is still close. The stakes are huge. For the first time in my lifetime, my grandkids, and I have 2 of them, they will have less rights to privacy than I do. The freedoms we fight for, privacy, to get married, to read a book, to freely practice religion, to vote by mail, or to vote at home if you're disabled, to say you're gay or straight without consequence. All of this is on the chopping block. You know this as well as I do. So if I sound angry, I am. But I'm also hopeful because I know us. I saw the rally for Tally. I know what we can do. I see what we do in school board races. I see what we do when we get out the vote for levies. I see what you do. And I'm asking you to do it right now. Our power is in the vote. We can't stop. We won't stop. We gotta take the small steps. Andrew cannot do it alone. Terry Brady cannot do it alone. None of the leaders in this room can do it alone. But we can take the small steps, each and every one of us. Talking to our friends, talking to our neighbors, talking to our family members about the stakes in this election. Talking about their voting plan. People trust us. That is why they try to undermine us so much. That is why they, in autocracies, go after teachers first. They trust us. They trust us with their kids. That's why Ron DeSantis has TV commercials about what he did for public education. So, please, how many of you, I want you to stand up. How many of you will talk to one person? 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, 9 people, 10 people. Just have a barbecue. Be fun to do one day. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors. How many of you will do some shifts knocking on doors, talking to people, phone banking? How many will use social media? And I promise you, if FEA is out there strong, if we do everything we have to do, we will prevail on November 8th because you have the power, the moral power, the conscience, the voice of our kids, of our educators, and of America. Thank you very, very much.